This is Beach Talk Radio.
Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. This is your captain speaking, Mean Gene. Mean Gene. The following will be a test of the ship's whistle, the sonar alarm, the cable alarm, and the atomic attack alarm.
Ladies and gentlemen, with the Gulf of Mexico as their backdrop, broadcasting live from the Margaritaville Resort on Fort Myers Beach, here are the hosts of the dinkiest podcast in America, Kim and Ed Ryan.
Thank you all very much for coming to Margaritaville today for a very special show. And this is not my wife, Kim. I just want you all to know that. She is not here today. She is at a baby shower. And she asked me to promise not to say, who the hell holds a baby shower at 11 o'clock in the morning? But apparently that's a thing that people do. And so they're at a baby shower, my wife and my daughter. This is Chris from Fort Myers.
Hello, everyone.
And Chris is celebrating her, can I say?
Sure.
Her 60th birthday today. Her entire family is here. Where is your family from?
We all live in Fort Myers.
All right, now I want all of you guys to come behind us so that everybody on the camera can see that they're dressed up. You see, when I first saw all these folks down here, I thought, wait a second, the Mrs. Roper thing does not start until February because some of your family members were wearing the Mrs. Roper wigs. So your husband here said that, oh, you're dressed alike. Yeah. You have the same shirts on now. Your current day, Chris, and this is why she's not a current day,
yeah,
Chris.
I'm not current enough.
I see. So, what was the thought process here behind this get-up? The get-ups.
It took a lot of doing because Chris is very nosy. So we had a text chat with all of us except for Chris.
Yeah.
So and we all decided, okay, we're going to dress as. When Chris first came down here 40 years ago, she worked at Wendy's.
All right. And
then she worked at
So Publix. Whoa. Let's not go through the Wendy's thing so fast.
Sorry.
So you found a dude to get dressed up like a chick.
My brother-in-law.
And
my brother-in-law.
I don't mean that in any negative way. If you like to dress like a woman, that's fine. Do you play volleyball, by the way? No? But are you married to a woman? Is it okay if I ask you? Okay. All right. Okay, good. Not that anything's wrong with being married to a man if you're a man. I nothing's wrong with that. So, and this is your granddaughter?
This is my granddaughter, Adeline.
Yes. So you had the Wendy's thing, then you worked at Publix, and then where was it after that?
Then I stayed home.
You owned your own company after that, right?
Now,
yeah.
So that's been.
So this was called the phases of Chris's life.
Yes.
Now, what is with the curly wigs thing?
I used to have a fro.
Oh, you used to have a fro.
Day,
gotcha.
Yeah, so that's the theme is the fro.
You'll see
and the colors.
Columbia shirts.
Columbia shirts, yeah.
She loves her Columbia shirts. So
yeah.
All right, Columbia shirts is one of your things.
And then this is Chris's alter ego.
Yeah.
When she drinks.
When she drinks.
She gets rosy red cheeks, so we call her Scarlet.
You're a little rosy this morning, Chris.
Yeah. It's a little hot right now.
Have you been in the drink at all this morning or no?
No, not yesterday, not today.
Well,
so
did you drink too much yesterday?
No.
What is your drink of choice?
Tequila.
I see. Well, probably doesn't. So now you guys live in Fort Myers, so it's nice that you come down to the beach. Can you calm the kid down I'm just kidding. Bring that kid over here. The boogers and all. Bring him right over. Yeah. Does she want to be on the show?
Yes.
I see. Well, she can be on the show. You want to be on the show? No, stage fright. It's okay. I don't bite. So what? So you live in Fort Myers, but you decide you want to come to the beach and celebrate your birthday. Why?
Well, we were gonna do a cruise. 60 is a pretty good milestone. If you make it to 60, you're pretty blessed to be able to live that long. So we were gonna do a cruise, and that's kind of hard to get this many people coordinated for a cruise. We came down here. My daughter and her husband were here in May, and I just loved the whole thing, the whole vibe of Margaritaville and everything, the party. So we decided, I said, we'll just come here.
So
It's
you're
much
all
easier.
staying here.
Yeah, we're all staying here.
Nice, very nice. And the sun's out now, so you'll enjoy
I know,
a nice
it's nice
day
and warm
at the
now.
pool.
Yeah.
So what is you're 60 years old now. How
Yes.
long would you like to live?
As long as I can.
Yeah.
As long as I can, where I not a hindrance to somebody else.
Yeah.
That's when I.
Well, I'm glad I didn't ask that question in front of my wife because I know what the answer would be. So, any other thoughts you want to share with people about? Go ahead.
I just wanted to tell all these people behind all my family that this has just been amazing. I appreciate you so much. They went above and beyond the Call of Duty for this whole birthday weekend thing. I appreciate them so much. I am very blessed.
Look at this.
So, thank
See,
you all
I knew
so
we
much.
should have had more than we tried to have. Just like to say hi.
Say hi.
Yeah.
No.
All right. Well,
Grandma.
thank you guys for sharing your special day with us, and happy birthday, Chris.
Thank you so
Big
much.
hand for Chris and her
Thank you,
family.
Thank you.
Very nice. Oh yeah, go right ahead.
Margaritaville is the, I don't want to swear, so that it is it. I mean, it is incredible. The people here have been so accommodating. It's
Right.
just been incredible.
The service is great, and
Oh.
and yeah, and it's not a bad view from your room,
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
No, it's not. This is what we're looking at
Nice.
from our room. So,
All right.
but thank you, Ed.
Thank you,
I
guys.
approached Ed this morning, and he said, 11 o'clock, you guys
Yeah.
are going on.
Thank you so much.
You
So thank
guys
you.
appreciate it. All right. All right. Our guest for the hour today is coming up. He is the CEO of Seagate. Can we get a big hand for Matt Price, everybody, from Seagate? By the way, we do have a microphone here. If anybody in the audience, Matt's always been great about answering questions. So if anybody in the audience wants to ask a question, just come up to this microphone so that we can
Do
hear
I need
you.
headphones?
No, you
I
don't.
guess not.
I
no.
think you'll be.
I don't
okay.
get headphones. I was told I was doing guest football picks today. Is that
Yes,
what we're
that's
talking about?
Sure, yeah. So just for a little background, Matt, kind of give everybody the snapshot version of how Seagate became the owner of the Red Coconut property.
Wow. Okay. How much time you got? We got an hour, right? Well, when the before the storm happened, we were actually looking at development opportunities on the beach and investing in the beach. We actually put a couple LOIs on some properties for some marine development. We never got there with any of the owners, unfortunately. Then obviously we all remember Ian and what it did to the island. And after that happened, obviously there was a time of mourning and going through and picking up the pieces. But after that, there was a look of, okay, it's in our backyard. There's a need for investment on the island to, bring it to into the future. And who better to do that than local developers? And so we jumped in and looked at a couple properties, and the Red Coconut, for a lot of different reasons, but one being it was just at the start of Mid-Island, is the only property that went from the beach all the way to Mantanzas Pass. It was on both sides, at both sides of the road. We thought it was a really great opportunity for redevelopment. It is also in a redevelopment zone per the comp plan, so it allows a little bit more creativity as we submitted our proposals. And then I met Fran, and I'll tell you what, we hit it off right away. Fran was and is a terrific lady. I've been very protective of her and her story because we became pretty close through this, and I've taken some arrows, and that's who I am, a developer. It happens, but she started getting some in the beginning, and that just wasn't fair, and I wanted all those directed at me. But she's been very supportive through the process. When we had originally met with her, I explained to her that I understood the island, I understood why it became the town, what's going on, and I understood where, at least in my mind, where the town had to go to be successful in the future. And I tried to bridge that gap and work with her up front on at least a starting plan that made sense with her. And I think she actually said in the public meeting the other day, Ed, is that if you don't like what Seagate presented, you should have saw what some of the other developers did. And I think that's kind of what's lost on the public at the beginning of these, is that developers even the things that you're seeing right now, they are trying and they are having a lot of conversations. Some people may not love the change, and one of the reasons for that is it's immediate change. I mean, Ian came and fast forwarded what in my mind was probably going to be a 20-year rebuild of the island to bring it to more of a modern building, withstanding hurricanes and the weather that we're dealing with right now, and fast forwarded that to immediate. And that is uncomfortable for everybody, not just people that maybe don't want to see the island changing, but even people that maybe are a little uncomfortable with some of the projects that are coming up. But I think as time goes by, driving into the island today and every day that I do, I usually come down here every weekend, even if we don't stop, we just drive through. And, I've been coming down, I told the story earlier. The first time I came down, you got time for a quick story? This one's fun, and then it's embarrassing to me, which people like. So I came down in college at University of Pennsylvania. Me and my buddy came down and visited my parents. I'm 44 next week, so this was probably when I was 20, so about 24 years ago. And we got dropped off at Bonita Beach Road, and me and my friend took the trolley in. We may have not been sober, but we had a good time, and we stopped at the Lani Kai and met one of our friends from Miami of Ohio, who was down for a spring break. Oh, we got a Miami of Ohio fan. Well,
you don't hear that often.
Well,
unless...
I can tell you what, those guys can party, because we went into their room at the Lani Kai, and I'll always remember that room number. I won't mention it, but I'll never stay in that room ever, because yikes. But anyway, we had a great time, best time in the world at Lani Kai. It's the first time I've ever been to the beach. Wasn't going to be the last. We took the trolley home, and we're sitting there waiting for my father to pick us up, and we're sitting down. And again, we're from the Northeast originally, and we didn't know what fire ants were. So my buddy's sitting down, and he gets up and he starts screaming and running around like an idiot. I had no idea what he was doing. And he said, "There's ants all over me." And ants to us aren't a big deal, but we certainly found out what fire ants were, because with all the red welts and everything all over his legs, we learned not to sit next to sand during the dry season. So
did you get any, or just
I did not. I was lucky enough
Nice.
not to. So, but
So-
I always kept my eye out for them.
no idea what that story has to do with anything,
Nothing.
but thank you for sharing
I'm a storyteller.
that.
That's my
So,
first trip to the island.
by
I
a
fell in
round
love
of
with it.
by a round of applause here in the audience, who's in favor of the Red Coconut Seagate property proposal,
All right, not too bad.
and who's not in favor?
Oh,
This is an unusual crowd for you, as far as
You know what,
my
Ed-
people go.
Here's what I'll say.
Go ahead.
So there's been a lot of stuff happening, and
That was
to-
100% in
yeah,
favor,
but,
by the way.
But that's not fair. And I'll give the other side. I thought Greg was coming. Is he not here?
He
He's
said he was
against
coming,
it.
but I guess not.
Man, I'll tell you what.
He is
I even
watching,
I
though.
texted him on Thanksgiving. Happy
He
Thanksgiving.
told me you did.
Him and I are
Greg
have
Skasny, by the way.
become pretty close in this, and he's passionately against what we're doing, and I'm passionately against his vision. And there's nothing wrong with competing visions for an island on a rebuild. It's healthy, and I'll still talk to him, and I'll still talk to him every day, trying to convince him that I'm right and he's wrong, and he's just like me. And I think that's why we hit it off a little bit. And one of the things that was brought up last week was this idea of a mandate, right? Everyone's talked about the mandate, and is it a mandate? Is it not? I mean, you're hearing in the national election, it's like the most famous word.
So
in the
I
world.
just want to make sure people know what you're talking
Oh,
about.
sure.
So
Sorry.
the local election in which Greg didn't win, he lost by 120-ish votes. I don't remember the exact amount, but it wasn't a lot. But he didn't win.
I think
Scott-
John King says it almost the same as when they voted to,
Yeah,
take the island
right.
over, right?
And,
Yeah.
and Scott did favor the project. The mayor is not in favor of the project, but the mayor got more votes than anyone. So I don't know that election can really tell you anything about the project. I mean, Scott he was considered the incumbent. He did have, when the incumbent is in office, for whatever it's worth, you do have more momentum than if you're not. And Greg's never been on a committee. Scott was on the LPA for a long time, 7 or 8 years. So he did have a little bit of history there. So I don't know that election.
So Ed, here's what I'll say. My father, my father very well, very smart man, wasn't an attorney, but plays one on TV, so smart legally. And something he always tells me, when you're explaining, you're losing, right? Winners write history. And the issue with it is that he did lose. And if he did win, and I love Greg, and I'd say to him if he were here, but if he did win, he'd be hammering home that he was elected and he was against the project.
Mhm.
And
Truth.
there's nothing wrong with
Truth.
that. I would have done the same thing. So sometimes it's okay to say, look, there's a split electorate here. It's close. And for every person that doesn't love the project that we're trying to build, there are people that drive down like I do on Estero and look around, and there's nothing to look forward to.
I do want to address. I'm going to watch the comments as we go along, and because it's fair for me to interject. I think, well, my wife would say it's not. And Rhonda says there were a lot of folks that said if they would have voted early, it would have been different. Or if they wouldn't have voted early, it would have been different. I'm sorry, but you knew Greg's position on things from the beginning. He didn't just come out 2 weeks before. Greg's position was crystal clear from the beginning. He wasn't in favor of big buildings. I'm not saying Scott was in favor of big buildings, but his position was clear. Now, maybe it wasn't as forceful as it was the last 2 weeks, but it was crystal clear. There was no doubt in anybody's mind where he came. He got the message out. So I love you, Rhonda, but I don't believe that to be the fact. Now, let's talk about a couple of things. You also own the property that used to be an RV park next to Red Coconut. What was the name of that?
So, little breaking news on that. I don't own it. In fact, we're no longer in contract on that.
Oh, wow. That is breaking news. What happened?
Well, it just happened. So, unfortunately, this delay in the process wouldn't allow us to move forward through our due diligence because obviously, in order for me to do the planning of that site, I need to know exactly what's going on the Red Coconut site because they would talk to each other a little bit.
Sure.
And unfortunately, we did have it under contract. It was the worst kept secret. But unfortunately, we tried to do an extension with the board, and as of right now, they decided not to extend the contract. No hard feelings, and maybe in the future we can put something together. I'd love to, but I just wasn't ready to move forward with the uncertainty out there. And again, that is something that other investment people are looking at as they come into the island. Is there's a lot of people looking at our project to look to see what this means for the island going forward. And one of the things you've heard throughout this process, even with people that have been against the process, is that we've been open, honest. We've met with people. We've shown people what we did. We've tried to explain why we've done what we've done. And I think, people that look to invest in the island see that, hear that, and want to know if that's just lip service to get to a no. And I think that the first council vote showed everybody that it wasn't. I think council voted 4-1 in favor of the project. And we had met with council for the past year and a half individually, asking about opinions on the site. How can we make it better? What's bugging you? What's not? This did not happen in a vacuum. This has been a year and a half process.
So the property, it was your choice not to extend the contract or their choice?
It was our choice.
Okay.
But
because
they had the ability to, there was an extension fee to add on. And at that point, the money would be hard. And at this point, I can't.
Because you're not sure what will happen the next month.
I'm not sure what would happen.
Yeah.
And I tried to explain to them, this is very similar to what happened with Fran at the Red Coconut. I'm sure Fran would have talked to them. I offered that up, and Fran could have walked them through that we say what we're going to do. And I'm an honest guy, but I can't look at someone and lie to them and tell them this is, and I was honest about it, and we are where we are. And again, I hold no hard feelings. If someone wants to pay more than we do and they get a better deal with somebody else, that's fantastic. And I look forward to working with our neighbor. But unfortunately, at this time, it's not the right time. Now, we did promise that we were going to keep in touch, and if the right time came around, I'd love to work.
Do you have any? Do you still have your eyes on the Junkanoo property across the street?
So we still have that under contract.
Oh, you do?
We do. Terry's been great
working
with us.
Say that again.
Well,
nobody believes that.
No, honestly. I mean,
yeah,
look,
honestly.
Terry is a businessman, but
how about you knock the building down, Terry?
But look, I'm not going to comment on it, locking on buildings down and insurance and all that kind of stuff. I don't know his business.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But what I do know is that Terry's a businessman, and I'd rather negotiate with somebody that I understand that their position's going to be, than negotiate with somebody I don't, or, and this is happening all over the island, a board who has a lot of owners that disagree, because it's hard to negotiate when there's in a negotiator's mind, no rationale to get to a point. With Terry, the rationale is he wants the most money in the least amount of time. I know that. So if I'm negotiating with Terry, I know getting him the most money and the least amount.
What is that property under contract
$12.
$12. Yeah. So is there a chance you could close on it soon so you can knock it down?
So we're working on that, Ed. I mean, obviously, we got to go through our process because we look at this as more, and I'll let people know what we're planning there. We're planning 8 single-family homes. So there's not going to be anything special there. There's not going to be huge height next to it. We're building 8 single-family homes. It'll
Okay.
be Seagate homes. We've built them all over. You can go to our website and look what they would look like. But that's kind of what we had planned there. But again, everything kind of ties together, and the linchpin is everything is our Red Coconut project, and then everything builds from there.
So let's talk about the process. You're going before the council on Monday and then again on the 16th. So you really only needed one more. I think you guys and the town thought, okay, we got one in.
Do you want me to explain?
Yeah.
All right. I'll explain the situation because I think it's better coming from me of exactly what happened. So we thought we did everything right in the notices. The notices conflicted between the development agreement and the a PD, right? So what we were trying to do was make sure that those two connected. Well, when we originally had our first meeting, and this was brought up later and no one really caught it, the notice for the first meeting was done as a development agreement and not a PD. And so what the town wanted to do was go back and say, tell you what, we're going to go back and say that notice is fine because we're going to vote and say that it was okay because we gave enough notice for that meeting. Now, I was fine with that until my attorney called me and said, look, the issue with that is that typically in developments, and again, we're in a litigious society and I'm a fiduciary to my partners. Unfortunately, people sue, right? So I need to protect. And typically in a development world, you get 30 days to sue after a project, and then you can see if we can work it out. But when it comes to notices, the statute of limitation is 5 years. And so the issue with that, and it actually happened over on the East Coast, is that a developer was halfway up building a building and had to knock it down.
Oh boy.
Because of a notice issue. And my attorney told me 99 times out of 100, you're going to win. Unfortunately, get the wrong judge on the wrong day, and such is life, right? So that's too much of a chance for us to take. On top of that, I did hear the screams of, well, you were doing this during the holidays, no one was away, you're trying to get it through, this was going to go through in summer, and then it keeps getting dragged on. So again, more and more meetings. But what I'm trying to do, Ed, is
overdo it.
That's the reason this makes it as clean as possible. People are going to get their day to come and talk, and I'm looking forward to it. And we'll go through the process and they'll vote again. I don't know if anything's changed out there that would sway anyone's votes. I can assure you that, and Dan has mentioned this, I met with the mayor for an hour and a half on the property. I think it's important for the island to try to get to a 5-0 on this project. Most developers wouldn't care. They have the votes. They're going to sit back and relax. But I think it's important for the town that, I'd explain this as like the Supreme Court. Sometimes the conservatives or the liberal judges bite their tongue and vote all in the same way on important issues because they understand that a unified front is important on certain things.
Well, you're not getting a 5-0.
I keep trying.
I know. And by the way, the mayor mentioned it last week too. It's like that you're allowed to meet with the developers as long as you're not that. If you saw 5 council members out there with a developer, that would be one thing. But Dan was out there with his Vote for Dan Aller shirt on the property with Matt in the wide open space. It's not, he wasn't trying to hide anything, and there's nothing illegal about that. It's fine for developers to meet one-on-one with council members and LPA members as long as you don't go back to the second council member and say, this is what Dan said, or this is what X said, and daisy chain it that way. That's the only thing that's illegal about that. And you're fine to try and lobby them.
And the project is better for it. I mean, this idea that you're just going to walk in a blind and throw out ideas without having discussions with people doesn't make any sense. If you're not communicating with decision makers and bouncing ideas off them, I don't know how you even get to a project that's worth to put up.
What is your perspective? I've been covering the beach for 6 years now, and I can't give you the right answer because I don't know. You can't go really by following some of the comments on my page.
I read every one.
Because then you come here and 100% of the people here in favor of the project, which totally stunned me. And then if you come to the show on Sunday, I don't think the reaction is going to be the same for some reason. It's a totally different situation. But let me ask you a question. What is your perception of the residents on the island, the people that have a say, the voters? Are they the majority in favor of your project, or do you think the majority is opposed to your project?
So to be honest with you, I've been told both sides, but I think it's relatively close. I think that this is just like the national. It's one way or the other, right? And there's swing voters each way. And here's how I explained it. When Margaritaville finally got approved, it was probably close, 50-50. And then 5 years went by and it was 65-35. And now it's probably 80-20. And that's how I envision the island with some of these projects getting approved, is that looking back and understanding what gets built and being able to see it, I think is going to help. And there are going to be people that aren't going to like it. There may be some people that leave the island over it, and that pains me. I wish they would give the new island a chance, but there are people that are frustrated with that. But there's just as many people that I've heard say, if something doesn't start happening, I'm leaving the island. And I was talking to Mark Wilson the other day. Yes, us developers talk. We don't have a secret cabal, but we do talk. And there's I think 17 units left in his tower right now. And the biggest complaint they get is, we want to know what the island's going to be like in 5 years. And I don't think that is an unreasonable ask from your residents.
Mark Wilson is the CEO of London Bay, by the way, for anyone that doesn't know, and that is the Outrigger property that'll be coming up, the Charlie's property. So you have had, well, I guess the elephant in the room is going to be on Monday, 17 stories. You have at least one, maybe two. Is it 17? I lose track of it.
Yeah, it's 2 towers. There are 17 stories. Yep.
So do you really need 17 stories, man?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I laid out, and I've laid this out plenty of times, but as I've argued with people that'll come and sit down with me, it's a volume discussion, right? So you need to fit the units into the squares. And I explained that the first thing we did, and people say, you got the first plan that you presented approved. And I would tell you that anyone who thinks that me putting 0 units on the beach was my first plan, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, you need to explain what you're talking about. Sure. You're not building anything on the beach, is what you're saying.
We're just putting a beach club on the beach. And we can. And we absolutely can. And we could have asked for it. And a lot of the other,
how high could you have gone on the beach
without getting any entitlements for over parking?
Okay, so for over parking, then you could have asked for
and only a 50-foot view corridor, and that's without asking anything. And I keep going back to people that they have this idea of this set plan from 1999 that was put together. What they don't understand is that yes, I could go build that plan. The issue is that nobody's building what they're approved on. There's been plenty. Myerside got approval for more density and height. Mm-hmm. So if I were to look at building a project like that, I don't know how I don't start with twice the density that I have right now, because that's what everyone else is getting on these smaller projects, keeping the height down. So when I went back 2 years ago and I went through this process, I asked the question, what is more offensive to the public? Is it density or is it height? And the response I got was it's density, the traffic, the issues with traffic, all this stuff. And if you're going to do height, if you pulled it off the beach, that would be amazing. Give us some view corridors pulled off the beach. And I've heard from people, well, view corridors are not something that we think is public benefit. Well, then you got to rewrite your plan, because that's the only thing listed in the plan. And everything we've done through the process, and Tina, who's wonderful and way smarter than I am, who helps me with my presentations, went through it. Everything we've done has followed the comp plan to a T. We walked through the whole thing, and we're allowed to do exactly what we asked to do. And it becomes at that point a policy decision from council.
What do you, without BSing the people, I'm not saying you ever have, but what are they getting in return for the 17 stories? What are you giving them for public
let
benefit?
me ask you something. Bring up your list. The list that everyone voted on beach.
I can't bring it up, but I know it was a view corridor was the top thing.
View corridor. There was a beach bathroom, which we've agreed to add with Jim's suggestion.
Now, just for your knowledge, there's a condo building that we know people.
I'm working it out with them. I'm working it out.
All right, just a detail that's important to know.
Oh, believe me, I understand, and I've met with them. And
no, I don't even mean it like that. I mean, people want a beach bathroom, but there's a condo building right next door that doesn't want a public beach bathroom right next to their condo building.
I understand, and you know what? To be honest with you, and this is it wasn't my first choice to put a public park and a public bathroom next to my beach club, but such is life. I mean, those are some of the concessions that we're making. We did put the road into the back, which extends. We put some bike paths through. I've seen some comments about how close we are to Estero, but the issue is that if we built the project that is allowed, we would have to build up to Estero because there is a build to line in the original, and the build to line is right up against the sidewalk. So right up against the sidewalk, you would have 3 over parking straight up in the air all the way through that. And to me, that does not show any architectural at all. I mean, it's going to be really hard to design a project that looks good doing that way. And it just doesn't make sense. And what we looked at is we have 10 acres. It's the biggest parcel on the beach. It's a redevelopment zone for a reason. There is ability in the comp plan to ask for what we asked for. Let's get creative and let's build something that, 10 years from now, people are going to look back and say, wow, that's a statement project, because that's what Seagate does. We build statement projects. I'm not interested in building a project I'm not proud of. So
they're getting the beach corridor view, the view corridor. They're getting a public bathroom probably when you work that out. What else?
Well, we did get rid of, on the beach park, we did get rid of the roundabout that first came from LPA. Anita was really on top of me on that. When I found out we could do that, I did call her and she was thrilled. And then she told me to cut the height down to 7 stories or something like that. And I laughed, and that was that. But Anita, again, that's another example. I mean, Anita's been great. We spent 3.5 hours together originally. I thought I was close with her to maybe understanding. And then I think the last 2 storms and what happened there, I think that changed her mind a little bit. And maybe I was never going to get her there, but most people told me not to try. Just like my whole team told me, what are you, nuts, going on Ed's show the 2 days before the vote? But this is who I am,
Yeah, well, we appreciate that. I think the people appreciate it as well. And I'd like to know on your staff who doesn't want you to come on. Yeah, and the people here do. And so so is Anita in favor of the project right now or no?
No, she's not. But you know what?
But
that's
Anita's,
okay.
I think Anita's biggest struggle right now is the height of all these buildings. I think that she helped develop the comp plan. She was the mayor when the town first incorporated. And the reason the town incorporated was the height of the buildings. And the town is struggling with the height of the buildings.
Totally agree. And look, I've had a lot of conversations with Anita, and I don't want to talk about some of the private conversations we had, but
go right ahead. Nobody watches.
But I did have a conversation with her, and I do think she brings value to the conversation. There's nothing wrong with an opposing viewpoint and trying to keep things down. People think that developers just want everything rubber stamped and approved. Well, if that were the case, this process would have taken 6 months, and I would have been starting to put piles in. I'm driving piles. I mean, the reality of the situation is this has been a long process, and we have gone through a back and forth with a lot of different ideas, and Anita was part of that, and the project's better for her opinions. And I think it's important to have Anita and the Dans. And by the way, I know that people, for the 4 yeses that I got on council, that everyone thinks that they just would agree with anything. That's certainly not the case. Karen was the reason that restaurant's in there. I mean, she hammered home the fact to me that we need retail, we need restaurant, we need that was not an easy way to fit in, right? I mean, that was tough.
So you weren't going to put a restaurant in for the condo?
Well, we were going to put a restaurant in the beach club for the condo, but the public restaurant is adds all sorts of issues with development. Once we put that restaurant in, FAR calculations kick in. So now we have to worry about FAR. People don't understand that putting that restaurant in, there's a lot of hip bone, leg bone in the development business. And that's why, I get frustrated when I hear it. I know other developers do, and people who invest in the island. Well, what's your plan B? There is no plan B. I mean, we developed a plan to come and get through. And well, what if you get voted down? Well, it happens. We had a project at Seagate that got voted down in Bonita. We got voted down. It happens. We're back to the drawing board. There will be a plan B, or there. When you say there is no plan B, you mean right now. Even the guys at Moss Marina said there was no plan B. They're working on a plan B. I'm not saying you're going to get voted down. It doesn't look like you will unless it's crazy opposed for the next 2 meetings. But you can't say there isn't a plan B. Right now there isn't, I'm guessing. Right.
But there would be. Which might be years down the line.
It could be. Yeah. I mean, but as of right now, there's no plan B.
Yeah. So, but you did have a different plan that you've never showed off to everybody. And I want to give you the opportunity to explain to people, if you want to, that you could have covered all the property in a different way.
Yeah, we could have. I mean, the reality is we have to fit the units into the project, right? So if you don't put height down and you start making marketable units, that's a lot of real estate that you're covering with concrete. And the layout is a concrete jungle. Now people ask, well, why don't you show the plan? It's going to be easy to show the plan. Show the plan. That is not who we've been through this whole process. We haven't been that. We haven't been the look at the boogeyman in the closet. That's not how we sold the project. We're proud of the project that we came through. We're proud of the process that we went through to get there. And I really have no interest in talking about something that we're not passionate about or that we want to do. And I don't think it's helpful for the town who's having this discussion to, hey, here's a boogeyman, get scared. I mean, that's not having grown up discussions. Those are 6th grade discussions, Ed. I mean, we need to have real discussions about what the future of the town's going to look like. In my vision and what I see is I think you see 5 to 6 major developments that are going to happen. And that 5 to 6 major developments are going to allow the tax base and the residents moving there to support the infill properties going around. I can tell you right now, I'll tell you a quick story. I met with an architect one time, right? And he was presenting to us because he wanted to be an architect. And he brought this book and he showed me this book, beautiful buildings, absolutely gorgeous buildings in locales that didn't make sense for those buildings, if you will, right? Too expensive in those locales. And I asked him after he showed me the book, I said, how many of those buildings were actually built? He said, well, none, but I have some great plans here. And my concern is that when the town doesn't take into account reality and plans around what they think is a great plan, things don't necessarily happen. Jim's in the audience. I told him I was going to point to him, but Jim Dunlap's has been a voice on the LPA, and he's kind of lent his ear to that. He's a former bank CEO. He understands if one of Jim's people came to him right now and said, hey, boss, I got this infill resort that I want to build in 18-unit boutique hotel on Fort Myers Beach right now, he'd fire the guy on the spot because the math doesn't work. And the reality of Fort Myers Beach right now doesn't work. Now, if Seagate and London Bay, a couple of these other projects are on their way, they're starting.
Okay, before I forget, Matt, it doesn't work because your math doesn't work. You can't make your investment.
No, that's bullshit, Ed. That's just bullshit.
Well, let me finish my question.
No, go ahead.
But there are people on the island, I don't know what the number is, maybe it's just a small number, that say it's not their problem for them to figure out how many units you need to have on a piece of property because you spent $52 million on it. That's what they would say. We incorporated because we wanted the buildings to stay low. And your building is not low. Your building is high. You get a chance to ask for it, and it looks like you're going to get it. But that's the other side of the argument.
And that's a perfectly fine argument, and I'm fine with that argument. But I think there's just as many people that are tired of the malaise, and they want progress. And there hasn't been any progress. So if there is that silver bullet of these magical developers and investors that are going to come in and build the town the way it was, I haven't seen them.
Well,
somebody has to have that conversation. And if
no
one else wants to,
you certainly are. You certainly are. And I sometimes I get myself in trouble with Greg and
Well,
his,
me too. I'm
and
sure
his-
my guys are all
and
pissed
his
at me now,
group,
but
but-
whatever.
and I know some of the people that were part of the comp plan. Like, you've got your property and you got the outrigger, and I don't know if you can include Moss Marina in there, but even if you do, I mean, how many total properties is it that you're going to get these new bigger developments on? And you can always crack down after that.
Exactly.
That's the government. You can always say, listen, we lost X number of units in these storms. Like, I was just talking to Mike at the Whale. Across the street, there was a hotel that's not coming back. It's going to be a parking lot. Well, those are gone. I mean, how many of those different kinds of buildings are there? And so,
and to me, that is smart redevelopment, Ed. It's looking that, hey, look, this isn't going to be everything, but I hear the Sanibel argument a lot, right? Well, Sanibel would never do this. Well, the problem is if you drive to Sanibel, how many high rises are up there right now? You drive through that island, you look up, do you see anything? No, because that island's always been that way. This island has significant high rises over. Now, I agree that the town was built to limit that, and limiting is fine. But when a catastrophic event happens, sometimes you need people that make decisions that start a redevelopment off.
when you go back to the comp plan and you look, if anyone's gone back and read the comp plan and you look at how they've kind of look to the future of the Red Coconut, it doesn't really look like what you're proposing. It looked like a neighborhood of homes. So do you think they need to scrap that comp plan and come up with something more modern after so long?
I think the reality, Ed, is that we're in a redevelopment zone. So that was put in the comp plan for a reason. They had an idea years ago that this may work. Wraparound porches. Right. Can't even build that anymore, right? So there's nothing wrong with looking back, 30 years ago and saying things have changed. I know a lot of things have changed. If I did some of the things that we were allowed to do 30 years ago, I'd be canceled and thrown in jail, right? So, things change for a reason. Progress is made. And I think that there's a way to have smart development where there's 5 or 6 signature properties on the island that get redeveloped and then fill in around it. And I don't know why that is not smart redevelopment.
Yeah. When you chat with some of the council members, have you noticed any of the 4 wavering at all since the first vote?
I don't want to comment on any of the council people, but I feel comfortable with the project the way it is.
All right. So you had a vote of 4-1, just so everyone understands the process. Now you have 2 more public hearings.
Yeah, 2 more votes, actually.
So there'll be 3 votes on this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, which will be a first time. Yeah. I don't think
Ed?
I've ever seen a project that needed 3 votes. So they'll vote.
And originally, even Greg, I think when you go through the process, there's an argument to be made that we only need 1 vote in the development agreement, but we wanted to make it similar to the PD. So we agreed to change those rules. But again, 3 votes, 4 votes, 8 votes. The reality of the situation is I don't think anything's changed between the vote that happened and now.
So some of the, I don't want to say complaints, but I guess that is the word, coming on this project or from the neighborhood, like him and Dapper's house, the house that fell down, everybody is right. It's going to be in the shadow of the Red Coconut property and some other homes. How are you working with them, or have you just kind of washed your hands with it? No, they're not going to be.
I don't think we washed our hands at all. I've offered to meet with anybody in person, talk. Dave was on your show last week, right?
Yeah.
So Dave sent me an email, called him right back, an hour conversation, and I don't think I converted him. He didn't convert me, but we certainly left with the understanding of, and we had talked about, we talked about maybe that going forward, it wouldn't be a bad idea for someone on council, someone on the LPA, a couple developers and a couple local people. Greg would be a great one who maybe have a different idea in development, get in and talk about the comp plan. I was absolutely horrified to find out that the last time they did that on the comp plan, not one developer was included in that. Now, we may be the devil, but it's what we do in our business. And to set a strategy around development on an island without bringing in a professional developer, I love planners, but planners don't risk money. So they like to draw. Right.
So are you expecting a big crowd Monday, or do you, it was 50-50 last time. I've been surprised along the way.
It's really frustrating to me. And I think that this stuff needs to stop. I do think that there's people that aren't going to come talk on the pro side because they just don't want to deal with the BS.
Yes.
And I think everyone needs to grow up. I mean, you can disagree with people, but I will sit down with any one of you and have a conversation with you, and a polite conversation, and we can talk for hours on end. Lord knows I can talk. And I will give you my opinion. I'll be passionate about it. But the idea that you're not going to talk to your neighbor scares me. And it's one of the reasons our country is where it is right now. And hopefully we're going to start turning that around. But it's certainly frustrating to that fact. I'm sure there are going to be people that come opposed to it. I know they're putting a group together, and I look forward to hearing any reasonable suggestions. Again, I don't think that we've been unreasonable through this process when we've had reasonable suggestions. You mentioned our neighbors on Denora on that side. We had a great conversation. We cut down access points on Denora. We put a sidewalk in. We put a green space in for them, and we added a bus stop for the kids. I mean, we haven't ignored our neighbors. We've talked to them, and anyone who wants to talk. I think that some of the people that disagree with us and are just completely against the process, if there's no starting point to the conversation, I don't know what to say.
Right. I think there is a contingent of people on the island that just don't want anything to be rebuilt because they like how empty the space is. And they want to keep you got some serious view corridors of the beach right now because of the buildings are gone. And so I think there's a part of that. I'm not accusing anybody, but there is a small part of that group that will never be convinced.
And one of the things that I'll tell those people, those view corridors are not going to immediately go away. We need to put our plans together. So it takes time, but just the approval of a project like this allows more investment in the island. People get excited about the island again, and that's what's missing right now. So people need to understand, if they do want places to go to, this FEMA ruling is tough, and it could be hurtful to the town. You start talking about not having places to eat, not having places to go. I mean, I've talked to a lot of residents who are not thrilled about that, Ed, and I think that the only way you're going to get that back is redevelopment. I really do. I actually was talking to Dan this past weekend about an idea. Maybe they could do a land lease on some of the property they have at a lower rate if you do a mixed use, in a project that makes sense, where they could make their money on the residential and the retail maybe works. I mean, that's how you're going to have to get creative to really generate the town back.
When you talk to the mayor, why is he opposed to it?
Two reasons. One, height, and one, he doesn't like the exclusivity to the beach club. I tried to work with the exclusivity of the beach club. I tried to help out with the public park, with the bathroom, but it just wasn't enough for him. And I respect Dan a lot. I become close with him, and I hope to work with other projects that he'll get to a yes on. And maybe eventually we'll get to a yes on this one. I think that those two are his deal breakers, Ed. And unfortunately, I don't have a silver bullet to take care of either one, but I did try.
Other than this resort that we're all sitting in now, I don't know that people can go to other resorts and just lolly into the hotel and go into the restaurant. I don't know. Maybe I don't get out enough, but is that you? Maybe you can answer that. Does that happen a lot, or is it open to the public in different developments you've done?
It's unusual in condo situation, right?
Gotcha.
And that's what that was the difficult part of this. I mean, we had a 2.5 multiplier, which would have got us to 352
right.
hotel
Okay.
units.
I know you're talking in development speak there, but
sorry,
the town's got a multiplier when you have a certain number of units available.
I should bring you to meetings.
I think what do you have? 149? Is that what your units are?
149. Yeah.
149. They can multiply that
141. Sorry,
by 2.5 and to convert it to a hotel. So that's the hotel units they're allowed to have. I don't know how the town came up with that. I don't know if that's some kind of. Have you dealt with that?
It's not unusual.
Okay.
It's not an unusual way in the development. They kind of do the math and kind of figure out what's what. Some cases FAR is used now as opposed to number of units times a multiplier. They typically equal out that, but
don't hotels bring more traffic than condos?
They absolutely do. And that is one of the arguments that I've made, and one of the suggestions was to limit. One of the things that we got hit with is we'll limit the ability to rent in your units because we don't want a lot of people there. And then I had the exact opposite argument made to me that we need people there to generate for retail. So, again, that's
that why you changed your mind on the renting?
No, I didn't. I tried to, again, Ed, I'm trying to get to a place where I can get.
But you originally said no renting.
I did.
And
then I got screamed at from a lot of the population saying that's going to be catastrophic for retail in the island. So
how big are the units going to be?
I don't know. We haven't designed it yet, but my guess is somewhere around 3,000 square feet. I mean, give or take.
And what do they sell for?
No idea. I mean, no idea. The market is going to dictate that, and we're years away from that.
Okay. So does anybody in the audience have a question, please? I mean, somebody have anything they want to say or add anything? I mean, you're all out there just looking at me perplexed, like I have all the answers. Are you worried at all that anyone could flip on you on Monday, or you feel pretty solid that you got 2 meetings coming with at least 4 votes?
Ed, I don't think I'm worried, but the reality is the reality. I mean, if the council votes the other way, and I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board. I do think that the project that'll come out of it, if we don't move forward, will take longer. And I'm not sure that people in 10 years are going to look back and say, man, what a great project. And that would suck. I mean, the reason I'm in this business is to create properties that last, that I can point to and be proud of.
The folks that are commenting on the Facebook page, please stop saying that the town council and the LPA are not following the comp plan. It means you don't understand what you're saying when you type that in there. The comp plan says one thing, but it also gives a developer the opportunity to apply for a CPD or a development agreement, and they can ask for whatever they can ask for. Just because they ask for 17 doesn't mean they're going to get 17. In this case, it looks like they're going to get 17. And in a different case, they may not. But you have to stop saying that, because it's not true. The comp plan sets the guidelines, but you are allowed to ask for more, and that's where the whole public benefit thing is supposed to come in with the horse trading thing. Where you get a little bit more or whatever, but it's not true when you say that the town council and the LPA are not following the comp plan. It's just not, right?
I agree. I agree, and I won't say anymore. I mean, look, if anyone online wants to have a conversation with me, Ed, you have my cell phone number. You've always asked me, and anyone that's asked to talk to me, you've given them my number, and I've talked to them. So I have no issue having conversations. I would just ask that if you want to have a conversation, understand where I'm coming from and understand where I think half the residents are coming from. And I think that's important when you have these conversations. And if you have a reasonable request, I'd love to include it. We've done it through the process, but redesigning a whole project after we have a 4-1 vote just isn't a reality that makes sense.
Yeah. Why would you do that? I mean, and you are throwing in an extra meeting, even though you feel like legally you could stand on 2 legs with that. But I mean, the thing that worries me a little bit, and I'm not in favor or opposed to the project, so please don't I mean, give me any crap about it. I don't live on the beach. I don't have a vote. Is that if there are people that are in favor of the project that don't show up because they don't want to deal with the negativity, then you're really doing a disservice to the project. You really should state your 3 minutes, and hopefully everybody does it in a respectable way, because this council does listen to public comment.
But I think those comments are happening, Ed. I mean, I don't think the council would have voted 4-1 in favor if these conversations weren't happening with residents. I mean, this idea that council isn't talking to residents, I think is crazy. Anytime I talk to council, every single one of them is bringing up a comment from a resident talking about something. I mean, there is constant communication happening, and I try to have an answer every time. And if I don't, then I go find one. Mm-hmm. The roundabout was a perfect one. My team pushed me and said, we absolutely need it. We absolutely need it. We absolutely need it.
You got cut to shreds on that.
Well, but fairly so. It was inconvenient. I certainly agree with that. And we were able to get my team to a place where they had the conversations and the ability to bring it out. So there are ways to make the project better. Just because you lose the overall vote doesn't mean you couldn't add to the benefit of the project going forward. And I think that's how I've tried to explain it to everyone that I've talked to, is if you had a reasonable request, I'll try to work with you.
Greg, I'm not going to have this debate with you online, but they are following the comp plan no matter what you say. And you did lose the election, even though it was by 120 votes.
Tell Greg I'll call him afterwards. I miss him. I thought he was going to come.
He said he was going to come, and we would have been welcome.
I was going to give him a big hug. So again, we are friendly. Despite maybe
and I know they have this petition that they have these people signing, and I don't have any idea if it will have any relevance, because just like the surveys that I do, if you're not a voter, it doesn't really matter, and there's no way to know who these people are that are signing this petition, and what weight it will have with the town council at all.
But I think, again, and to me, signing a petition is easy. If you have a thought of the project, you have the ability to talk to the developer directly. I've been open for a year and a half now. No, I've never told anyone that I wouldn't talk to them. So to me, I don't know how much weight I put in a position when they have the ability to meet with the person that's running the project. So I don't know if that's unfair, and if it is, I apologize. But I really do think that having an open book and the ability to talk directly to me, I don't know how you get better in that. And I don't think that future developers coming in, you're going to have this much ability to do that.
Anybody, last call for any questions or comments from the audience? I'm sure somebody will have things that they want to share with you afterward.
What about online? My friends online. They want to say anything?
If you want to, I'm sure you'll go back and look at it. I'm sure your team is watching it. So, ladies and gentlemen, big hand for Matt Price. Good luck on Monday, and we look forward to seeing how that goes on Monday. Matt Price is the CEO of Seagate, and the town council meeting is Monday at 9:00. And we'll carry that meeting live, of course. And then the third public hearing is the 16th, right? Is that the 16th, Matt? 2 weeks later, it's the 16th. All right, before we go, everybody, I want to let you know a couple of things. You see that? You see those two ladders over there? They're getting ready to put up a 30-foot Christmas tree that we will be lighting on Friday right there. They're all the poinsettia trees going up during the week, and the town council is going to have a ceremony. The town is going to have a ceremony, I think it's Wednesday, someday next week, to light the poinsettia tree. So get in the holiday spirit, people, and stop being so prickly about things, all right? Annie Meehan, speaking of not being prickly, she's a motivational speaker, and she lives on Fort Myers Beach. She's an author of 9 books, one of which is inspired by staying and surviving Hurricane Ian. Yeah, she stayed on the island and survived Hurricane Ian. This past June, Annie won an international award. She's the founder of P3, Pineapple Packages, Make Pain and Passion Equal Purpose. And try to say that when you've had 3 blue moons. The Island Pancake House is open 7:30 every morning, and they serve breakfast and lunch. By the way, Dave, they have a full bar at the Island Pancake House. So keep that in mind if you're in the Seagate Plaza, and you can't miss them in the Seagate Plaza because they're the only business open right now. And they are locally owned and operated. Brian and Stacy are super cool. And so give them a call, or you can go online and check out their menu, or you can just get your ass over to the Seagate Plaza. It's not called the Seagate Plaza. I almost said the Seagate Plaza, but it's close to the Seagate coconut property. The Island Pancake House. And finally, our last sponsor of the day is Power Block Builders. They have over 35 years of structural experience because, if you build a house, you want it to be structurally sound so it doesn't fall down. Because that would really suck if your house fell down. Not that would happen anywhere on Fort Myers Beach. They have Meet the Builder showcases going on. They can build all kinds of beach homes, from stick-built cottage homes to high-end luxury custom homes, and they will stand the test of a dinky little storm, by the way. Because the last thing you want is for your house to fall on your trailer, especially if you're living in your trailer, because that would really suck the big one, especially during the holidays. All models are online with pricing and floor plans, or you can call them right now at 239-849-1919. 239-849-1919. Tomorrow is Sunday brunch with the mayor at Wahoo Willie's. Next Saturday is the boat parade. The 21st is the bike parade, and we'll finish here with the Ben Allen Band. So there's a lot of stuff going on here in Fort Myers Beach, and you all have a great day. Bye-bye.